No cosa comprare. Perfeito. You have to pay attention, I'm live. Jo.
Die schwarze Tasche, ist das dein?
Ja.
Da habe ich schon jemanden drauf. Das wird noch schlimmer, ne? Guck mal, jetzt Achtung.
Prime Minister, are you hopeful of a deal? Prime Minister, will you win concessions?
Wenn du so meine Kamera trifft, dann haut es um, ne?
that right?
Geschafft. Don't let him in! No, don't let him out!
So, when I say Boris, you say wanker. Boris, wanker. Boris, wanker.
Ja, meine Damen und Herren, ich freue
Ladies
mich,
and gentlemen, I'm delighted
dass heute der
to
britische Premierminister
the
Boris Johnson
British Prime Minister Boris
uns in
Johnson
Berlin seinen
here in Berlin on his first visit. I would like to bid him a very warm welcome indeed. Yes, a very warm welcome to you. Of course, we have quite a lot on our plate today. Quite a busy schedule. There are a number of points on it. On the one hand, obviously, Britain's leaving the European Union. We have said repeatedly from the German perspective that we very much regret this step, but it is a fact. So what we now need to do is to shape Britain leaving the European Union in such a way that we continue to have very close relations between the United Kingdom and the European Union, but that we can also have very close bilateral relations, because these bilateral relations between Britain and Germany are very close indeed. They are characterized by a spirit of friendship, and I hope and pray that they will be remaining so. In the future, we have a lot of points where we see eye to eye, and also a lot of points where we need to work together. And from a German point of view, a negotiated Brexit is obviously something that we would very much welcome. But we have also said time and again that we are also prepared for a no deal. So should this happen, this will or can happen. We are prepared for it, but obviously, we also think of the life of the many citizens of British citizens living currently in member countries of the European Union. We also have to deal with the situation should Britain from one day to the next no longer be a member of the European Union, but a third country. We would then try our utmost in the period following that to negotiate a free trade agreement. That at least is the offer of the European Union. But going beyond Brexit, we also have a number of other issues that we need to discuss, because the world, as we know, is in turmoil. In only a few short days, we shall meet on the occasion of the G7 summit in France. I am very much also looking forward to hearing from the Prime Minister how Britain assesses, this new government assesses the situation with Iran, but also in Libya, with North Korea. And we shall also address Hong Kong and other issues that we consider to be challenges in the world of today, and all of this in a spirit of friendship, in a spirit of trying to bring about an understanding, and also in the spirit of shared values and also shared perspectives. So yet again, a very warm welcome to you, Prime Minister, dear Boris, to Berlin.
Much, Chancellor Angela, thank you so much for that amazing welcome that I've just had. I don't think I've had one like it in my life, and it's wonderful to be here in Berlin, in Germany, on my first overseas trip as Prime Minister. And it was obvious, really, that we should come here to see you, Angela, because this is a relationship that is so important for the UK. There are so many areas in which we collaborate, in which we work powerfully together, whether it's standing up for the rules-based international system, standing up for democracy, for human rights, for equalities of all kinds. Germany and the United Kingdom are shoulder to shoulder. We work together to preserve our collective security, whether through NATO or other institutions. We work together in tackling the challenges of the environment, climate change, the loss, the threats to our natural world. And as you rightly say, Angela, we will be talking about a wide range of subjects. Tonight we'll be discussing Russia, Iran, China, what's going on in Hong Kong, many other subjects, including, of course, as you say, the small matter of Brexit, which we are fated to discuss. And I just want to be absolutely clear with all our German friends and with the German government that we in the UK want a deal. We seek a deal. And I believe that we can get one. We can do it. Wir schaffen das, I think is the phrase. But clearly, we cannot accept the current withdrawal agreement, arrangements that either divide the UK or lock us into the regulatory and trading arrangements of the EU, the legal order of the EU, without the UK having any say on those matters. So we do need that backstop removed. But if we can do that, then I'm absolutely certain that we can move forward together. And I want to make one crucial point, which is that we in the UK are absolutely dedicated to the protection of the rights of the 3.2 million EU nationals in our country who do so much, who contribute so much to our country, and of course, in particular, our German friends. So that's why I'm here tonight. Thank you very much for that wonderful welcome, and I look forward to developing our friendship and our relationship.
Thank you. Ben Wright from the BBC. A question to the Prime Minister first, please. Mr Johnson, the EU says it will not renegotiate the withdrawal agreement under any circumstances. So are you prepared to compromise, or is this trip simply posturing before you blame the EU for a no-deal Brexit? And Chancellor Merkel, the withdrawal agreement was defeated in Parliament 3 times in Britain. It has been buried by Boris Johnson. Why won't you reopen it in the few weeks that are left? Or do you see the Brexit crisis now as the UK's problem to solve? Thank you.
Well, thanks very much, Ben. Yes, of course, I think there is ample scope to do a deal. And I've explained, I think, pretty clearly what needs to happen. We need to remove those elements of the withdrawal agreement that simply don't work for the UK. I've spoken of the things that I think are sensible, the protections of the rights of EU nationals, but the backstop, that particular arrangement, which I do think has grave defects for a democratic country, a sovereign democratic country like the UK, that plainly has to go. But once we get rid of it, if we can change it, then I think there is the real prospect of making progress very rapidly indeed. So that's why I'm here.
Of course, we follow with great interest the discussion currently going on in the House of Commons, and we know that the backstop has been part and parcel of a debate, has been at the very center of debate. In a way, it is a construct that has been created so as to address a situation that one sees coming when one doesn't find any kind of settlement on how to deal with the relationship between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland on this that constitutes, if you like, an external border within the single market. So in a way, this is an expression of a problem we have not yet solved. Once we see and say, this could be a possible outcome, this could be a possible arrangement, this backstop as a sort of placeholder is no longer necessary, then we know how the future relationship between the European Union and the United Kingdom will be shaped, particularly Northern Ireland, obviously, and the member state, the Irish Republic. So the backstop has always been a fallback position if one is able to solve this conundrum. If one finds this solution, we said we will probably find it in the next 2 years to come, but we can also maybe find it in the next 30 days to come. So then we are one step further in the right direction, and we have to obviously put our all into this. But that presupposes, allow me to say this, that we have absolute clarity on the future relationship of Britain and the European Union, how this is supposed to look like. And I think this clarity, in a way, has become clearer, if I may put it that way. So we have a lot to discuss tonight.
Frank Jordans, AP.
Frank Jordans from AP. Madam Chancellor, yesterday you spoke of these practical solutions for the Northern Irish question. How could they look like for you or for your colleagues? And you've also said within the next 30 days this could be possible. How realistic is this? And Prime Minister,
with the European Union, in the case of a no deal, wouldn't you be going back to the very same leaders that you've just rebuffed with a much more difficult negotiating position? And do you see a prospect of a time-limited backstop as viable?
Also erstmal möchte ich noch mal betonen.
well, let me underline yet again, and that is something that I think has worked over the past few years quite well. The Commission is negotiating on behalf of the 27 member states, and we have, as 27, the aim to have a uniform, consistent position vis-à-vis Britain, and I think that's important also for the United Kingdom. Now, Britain also should tell us, in turn, what sort of ideas it has, because it is not the core task of a German chancellor to understand the relationship between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland so well. I suppose you know much better all of the ramifications of the Good Friday Agreement and the sensitiveness, although I've learned a lot about this that is connected to it. So we would like to hear first proposals put on the table by Britain. Our aim is to preserve the integrity of the single market, and that is obvious. If somebody wants to leave the single market, we must see to it that the integrity of the single market is ensured. We have shown imagination and creativity in the past as European Union. I think here too we can find ways and means. I think that needs to be our task. We know that the United Kingdom has said on the 31st of October that you wish to leave. We take this very seriously. And we start from the assumption that you will do this. So we will simply have to do it in fewer months than 12 months if there is to be an orderly Brexit.
Just stress on the point about the border in Northern Ireland. The United Kingdom will under no circumstances implement checks, customs checks or any type of checks at the border in Northern Ireland. I hope that is absolutely clear. We think that there are ways of protecting the integrity of the EU single market without having checks of that kind at the border. And that's clearly what we need to work on to secure. And on your question about the time limit, I'm not attracted to a time limit. I think there are other flaws with the backstop. I think what we need to do is remove it whole and entire, remove the backstop, and then work, as Chancellor Merkel says, on the alternative arrangements. And there are abundant solutions which are proffered, which have already been discussed. I don't think, to be fair, they've so far been very actively proposed over the last 3 years by the British government. And now is the moment, you rightly say, the onus is on us to produce those solutions, those ideas, to show how we can address the issue of the Northern Irish border. And that is what we want to do. But I may say I'm very glad listening to you tonight, Angela, to hear that at least the conversations on that matter can now properly begin. And you've set a very blistering timetable there of 30 days, if I understood you correctly. I'm more than happy with that.
Sam Coates, Sky News. Boris Johnson, Angela Merkel has just asked you whether you're going to put forward specific plans to solve the Northern Ireland question. Are you, and can you spell them out for us now? Angela Merkel, Boris Johnson has made a cast iron commitment that Britain will never restore any hard infrastructure or any of the facets of a hard border. Can you make the same promise today?
Yeah, Sam, obviously we do think that there are alternative arrangements that could readily be used to address the problem of frictionless trade at the Northern Irish border, and you'll have heard them before, whether it's trusted trader schemes or electronic pre-clearing. All that type of solution and more besides is what we will be wanting to discuss. And you'll have seen an excellent report, by the way, by Greg Hands and others, I think just in the last couple of days, about the kind of alternative arrangements that could be contemplated.
There are two statements Both of them are correct. One statement is Britain wishes to leave the European Union. The other is the Good Friday Agreement needs to be preserved in letter and spirit. It needs to be respected. Not only Britain is saying that, but also the member state of the European Union, the Republic of Ireland, that will continue to remain a member, has said so. And this is part and parcel of our European position. So we have to somehow try and align those positions, which at first glance is not so easy, but we need to do this so as to be able to say that we find a solution. Andreas Rinke from Reuters, both of you have shown a spirit of compromise, or a readiness at least to compromise. But the basic problem, Chancellor, is it not that you do not wish to change the withdrawal agreement, and you, Prime Minister, are not satisfied with only sort of changing this agreement on the future relationship? So is there not the basic problem still unaddressed? Is it not only blame game, as the Federal President said today? And just an additional question, with a view to G7, the US President has just suggested to re-accept Russia as a member. Are you both for this or against this? Well, we do not as yet have a solution. So your question obviously is a justified one, but it cannot be answered today. You will simply have to wait a little bit longer whether we come up with a solution. I see possibilities through, for example, shaping the future relationship in such a way to address this point in a sustainable manner and a firm manner, and the rest is work, hard work. On the second question, whether Russia should again participate in the G7 meeting in 2014, there were good reasons for Russia being suspended. The Russian president spent a visit, an official visit in France. There seems to be a slight movement as regards the translation of the Minsk process into reality. If we were to come forward in the implementation, maybe the situation may change. But as the situation is today, I would say there is not yet sufficient progress for saying the reasons we had in 2014 are obsolete. So this is why we, and that means Europe, but also France and Germany in particular, will put our all into talking to the new president of Ukraine, Zelensky, and talking to Mr. Putin, and try to make progress. And then we look at the progress and we can see whether we are already far enough.
About the seeming impossibility of the negotiations, I've in my life watched a lot of European negotiations, and believe me, it looks at first as though it's, you know, irresistible force and immovable object, and what in my experience happens is that people find a way through. And I think that if we approach this with sufficient patience and optimism, as I say, we can get this done. And it's in the final furlong generally when the horses change places and the winning deal appears. On your second very good point about Russia and the G7, I'm aware, of course, of the moves to reintegrate Russia into the G7. And I just have to say that given what happened in Salisbury and Wiltshire, given the use of chemical weapons on British soil, given the continuing instability, civil war, the war in Ukraine, given Russia's provocations, not just in Ukraine but in many other places, I must say I am very much with Chancellor Merkel in thinking that the case has yet to be made out for Russia to return to the G7. I think that probably is yet another example, if I may say so, of an area where UK and Germany have a common position.
Okay, danke schön. Wir müssen jetzt.
Thank you very much. We need to go to work now.
Thank you.
Handshake.